Because you guys tend to ask me a lot in those questions, what's your favorite Bible verse? This is one of them. With this verse, I probably could preach all night, but we're not going to do all that. Backstory, before I actually read the verse, Joshua was the person that came after Moses and was the one that's going to lead God's people into the promised land. If you remember the story of Moses, at one point in time, the people were in the middle of the desert and thirsty. Imagine that, no water in a desert, right? God told Moses, speak to the rock. Moses, in defiance, not obeying God, decided, I'm going to hit the rock with my staff. He hit it twice. God, being the provider that he is, provided for the Israelites and still gave them water from that rock. And then Moses' punishment in the process turned around once he was no longer allowed to see the promised land. Here, God is giving Joshua a little pep talk as he's telling him, you're going to be the one. But I love this verse. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened. Do not be dismayed. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Dismayed. Synonyms of dismayed are spooked, alerted, taken back, caught off guard. Don't be caught off guard. You're going to be the person. That's what he's telling him here. He's also telling him, get over your fear. Right now, you have to be courageous. Once again, I could preach on this verse all night, but I want to point that out. He commanded you, be strong and courageous. That means there is a way past fear. Bottom line, there's a way past fear if you can just be courageous and get past it. So whether that fear is something along the lines of a haunted house. Probably thought I wasn't going to mention that tonight. Let me tell you guys a quick story. Last weekend we went to a haunted house. In this haunted house, on the way there, as we were walking up to go pay, three people, I won't mention them by name, Janine, had this look of terror on their face. Dom, right? But one person, when I asked, said that their fear level at that moment was at an 11. And that moment I said, maybe paying money to get jump scared is not the right thing to do if this person's already off the charts. Okay? Maybe this isn't the right thing to do. So what did we do? We paid the money, went inside anyway, and everybody had a blast. Right? As we're talking about things that scare people, I love adrenaline, so I enjoy being scared. Just a couple weeks ago, somebody, Mackenzie, was sitting on top of the refrigerator and started moving boxes trying to scare me. Did it work? No. Kudos to trying. It was fun and it was funny. But can you imagine being her while she's sitting up there and the giddiness inside of her? She's like, I'm really going to get him. Right? And it was going to be funny if she could make me jump the way she made Janine jump. Okay? So, but I like that feeling. Okay, now I got to share one more. I'm going off my notes. You guys ready for this one? The best scare anybody did on me. 2016, I'm watching the World Series of the Cubs, right? It was, they were all good games. This was game 2. I'm at Buffalo Wild Wings watching the game. As you can imagine, it's really packed at Buffalo Wild Wings. Didn't think much of it. After the game, I'm headed back out to my car, and the hostess stops me. I'm at the back of my car and says, sir, I think there's somebody in your trunk. I drove there. I'm like, in my trunk? There ain't nobody back there. But I got to tell you, when she said that, everybody that was around heard her. And there are people that are now worried for me that there's somebody in my trunk. Fear is contagious. That'll preach it itself. I like that one. All right. But fear is contagious. So now you got this family who's trying to get in the vehicle next to me with 2 kids. I'd say they're probably, I don't know, yay big, little ones. They're now scared that someone's about to kidnap me by riding in my trunk. Right? I went to push the button to show everybody there's nobody in my trunk, relax. And it didn't work. So I had to take my key out. I put the key in the trunk and I turned it, and when I opened it up popped this dude wearing a big old panda hat. Not funny. All right, listen, if you can get me, congratulations. He got me that day. My heart stopped for a second. But I have a fight response. So I grabbed the hood and slammed it back on top of him. The thing was, is I enjoyed the scare, but that's my own natural response. I feel bad for him. The panda hat came off. He showed me who he was. I feel really bad for Matt. He is a Cardinals fan, so he kind of deserved it. Yeah. That's beside the point right now. But I just wanted to point out, though, like, he got me. Congratulations to him in that. Okay? I think it's funny for jump scares. In fact, I bet 90% of you guys, I have tried to scare from behind at least once. Abby's not here, but Abby gets the best reactions. Ty gives no reaction. There is no scaring her. But I enjoy that jump scare, and in those little moments like that, fear is fun, and it's funny. In any other context, fear is not funny. In fact, it is dangerous. It is very serious. And I can't speak for you guys, but I know I can speak for myself in the last two and a half years. I've been really tempted to go back into fear, something that I've come out of a long time ago. When the news flashes up something along the lines of global pandemic, that's scary. Or yesterday, and no joke, just yesterday, the President of the United States, in an interview, warned Putin, if you use nuclear weapons, so will we. And that invasion of Ukraine, the invasion that war in Ukraine is still going on. You guys, that is scary, that we are still talking about nuclear weapons in that. Or worse yet, in Iran right now, they are protesting against the new government, because there's a new one. And the people in charge of Iran, the Iranian, I don't know if it's their actual government, whoever overthrew them, I'm not sure what's going on. But against the protesters, they mowed them down with machine guns. That is terrifying, if you look at a world scale. But you guys probably don't watch the news or are even aware of most of this, and that's fine. For you guys, that fear is going to look something more like, hey, it's Friday night at the football game. It's going to be a fight. Oh, they're wanting to beat me up. Oh, no. Last week they had knives. What do I do? Right? Or maybe it looks like, so this person is spreading rumors about me, and I know they're not true, but what if everybody believes it and then they think that's me? Or I just want to fit in. So I'm worried that they won't like me, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to become somebody that's not me, so that they'll like that person. Meanwhile, they still don't like you because it's not you. And some of you don't need a reason to be scared. You've been scared for a long time. But there is good news. We're at church. Of course there's good news, right? Let me back up. Maybe there's something to be afraid of. Maybe there is something to be afraid of. This wasn't supposed to be up on the screen yet, but Jesus said, fear not. As a pastor, I'm not supposed to tell you that there's something to be afraid of. I'm supposed to tell you you're under the protection of God. Nothing bad can happen. Right? Don't worry about it. I mean, if God's for us, who can be against us, right? And I can misuse a couple verses in there to tell you nothing bad's going to ever happen, and I'd be lying to you. That is not my job. My job is to be honest with you and tell you that, yes, there is something to be feared. My job is to make sure you guys understand the truth and where you're supposed to place your fear. To make sure you understand that. Jesus' message throughout the Gospels was this: fear not. He said it repeatedly. It was one of the main themes of his entire ministry. When Jesus says, fear not, that doesn't sound like very practical advice on how to get past fear and overcome it. It sure isn't very encouraging if Hey, God, I'm scared. Well, fear not. Don't worry about it. It's okay. And there's no encouragement in that, right? But Jesus always gave something encouraging along with the fear not. It always followed it. And by the way, Jesus was just echoing everything in the Old Testament where they continually said, do not be afraid. I'm pretty sure, and I know I read it somewhere and I didn't really look it up, but they said 365 times it's mentioned in the Bible, one for every day. I do remember reading that somewhere. I think it's probably in there more than that, to be honest. It's that common of a theme. And some of you guys are staring at me right now because I've stepped on toes and I'm hitting feelings. That's okay. Congratulations, Dom. Fearing not and not being afraid has proved really hard time and time and time again to actually achieve. We've been doing it since Adam was scared in the garden and hid from God. We have been scared ever since. Especially the disciples. I like to read from the disciples, because I'm trying to be like Jesus, just like the disciples were trying to emulate Jesus, right? So I like to relate myself to them. If I had to pick one that I was probably the closest to, I am bullheaded like Peter. I am. And I fail repeatedly just like Peter. But there are days that you can't tell me anything else because my faith is strong like Peter's. I'd say he's the one I relate to the closest, if I had to pick one. However, we're going to move on to what Jesus had to say about fear in Matthew 10. He said, behold, I am sending out as sheep in the midst of the wolves. So be wise, as serpents, and innocent as doves. That sounds promising, right? I'm sending you out as wolves, or as sheep among wolves. In the following verses that I don't have up there, in the following verses, it goes on to tell you, you're going to be flogged, you're going to be beaten, people are going to hate you for my name. Now, if I'm one of the disciples, and Jesus tells me that, I'm instantly going to be like, whoa, I'm getting flogged and beaten? No one's going to like me? And then Jesus follows it up with 3 times in 3 verses. I don't have them written up there. But in verses 26, 28, and 31, I encourage you to go back and read these verses. In those 3 verses, he says, do not fear. Now, hold on, Jesus, do you hear yourself right now? You're telling me I'm about to get flogged, beat, and everything else, right? All those things bring about fear. And you're telling me don't fear? How am I supposed to not fear the one thing, the one emotion I get from everything you just told me? I know if I was there, I'd probably be thinking to myself, and Jesus, that just doesn't make sense. And Jesus would probably be thinking to himself, but it will soon. Just from everything else I've known about Jesus. That's kind of how I think that conversation would go. If we can move on to the next verse, Matthew 8:23. See, there's many stories of fear here, and this is the one that I chose. I like this story the most. Janine enjoys the story also because I made her go out in the middle of the water with me on a paddleboard so I could tell her this story. In the middle of the night.
That's where you guys went?
That's where we went. It was after youth group one night. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and read this first part here. It says, and when he got into the boat, his disciples followed him, and behold, there was a great storm on the sea, so that the boat was being swamped by the waves. But as he was asleep, and they went and woke him, saying, save us, Lord, we are perishing. Perishing means dying, right? So they are terrified on this boat. Terrified. I want to remind you, at least 4 of these guys are fishermen. They are used to being on boats. They know how to steer the boat. They know how much water a boat can take on. And it's being swamped by the waves. That means waves are breaking inside the boat. They're taking on water. It's storming, so the winds are high, and you got waves breaking on the boat. So I imagine it's kind of loud in the middle of a storm. I know you guys have heard storms from inside your houses, right? So I imagine it's kind of loud. So they didn't go to Jesus and say, hey, wake up. Wake up, Jesus, it's storming out here. No, they're yelling, save us! We're gonna die, and you're asleep. I would be terrified. I honestly would be terrified. Before we move on to the rest of these verses, I want you guys to picture a boat for me in the middle of the sea. I want you to picture yourself on the boat in the middle of the sea. And then I want to know if this is what you pictured. Next slide. Was your boat bigger than that?
I pictured the Titanic.
You picture the Titanic? That's the thing, is most people picture a big cruise ship. This was one of the largest of the boats that they had at the time. One of the largest. So Jesus was not in a boat any bigger than this at the time the waves were overcoming him. They actually have, and I found it took me a little while to find, they have the remnants of a boat from the Sea of Galilee from 2,000 years ago. It's pretty awesome. Next slide. This is what's left of it. They think this boat was a fishing boat. This would be the one that Peter and, well, the other fishermen will all have fished out of. Something about that size. That's not very big. That's what's left. This is the type of boat Jesus was sitting in the middle of this storm. Can you imagine this great storm now? And the waves crashing over top of this itty bitty boat. It's terrifying. But I really want you guys to see this too, okay? They didn't go to Jesus and lightly wake him up. They were yelling and screaming, right? So Jesus, I really don't want to do this because the stage is dirty, but go and go to the next slide. Jesus says to them, "Oh, why are you afraid? Oh, you of little faith." I imagine he's talking to Peter at this point. "Oh, you of little faith" was Peter's nickname. But why are you afraid? Jesus didn't get up. He laid there and asked the question, why are you afraid? What worries me is, once again, I'd like to put myself in that situation. Are you nuts? It's a storm. We're taking on water. Storms means lightning and thunder too, right? Do you not see what's going around you? What do you mean, why am I afraid? We're about to die. Your question doesn't make sense. And I imagine Jesus saying, but it will soon. Then he rose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. It's amazing how fast, when I rocked Janine's kayak that she was on, her paddleboard, how quick the lake went to glass when I stopped. It was pretty quick. But just like that, it was done. I feel that Matthew's painting a picture for us here. And in that picture, he's turning around saying, Jesus didn't panic. He didn't wake up from a dead sleep to people yelling and screaming around him, going, "Oh, what's going on?" He didn't panic. See, he was the maker of the heavens and the earth. What was he to panic about? If I created you, I could control you. Blake and Anna are here, but I'd be more than glad to tell them that too, to their little comments. They'll be watching this later and I'll hear about it. But if he created them, he can control it. He didn't panic when he saw the waves coming in. He didn't panic when people were panicking around him. He remained calm. We have a tendency to try to predict the future. For example, tonight, I'm driving a handful of you guys home. I imagine it's going to be a smooth ride. More than likely, I'm taking Ty home first. Taking Elena home first, and then Ty. I have an idea what's going to happen in the future, right? And then often that doesn't go as planned. Jesus is saying here, I don't just know what's going to happen. I wrote it. Not just your near future. I know the far future. Guess what? In the end, I win. In the end, I win. But right now, I'm just going to go ahead and show you guys that I am exactly who I said I am. I am the sovereign God that I told you I am. I am your Savior. And so I'm just going to go ahead and speak to the sea. Hey, settle down. I'm going to go ahead and tell the wind to stop. And it did. And so maybe in the midst of our fear, while we're in the middle of all of it, we need to be more like the disciples here. In the next verse, when they said, and the men marveled, saying, what sort of man is this that even the winds and the sea obey him? But I like the way Mark worded it better. We believe that Mark got his version of the story from Peter. Peter would have been on the boat. Mark was not on the boat. And in Mark, he says they were filled with a great fear. So let me get this straight. You were scared to death, literally. You thought you were going to die. And now you see that Jesus told everything to stop. And now you're filled with a great fear. How great must that fear be? If that fear was worse than thinking they were going to die. At that point in time, they realized, you know what? We were afraid of the sea. We were afraid of water. Maybe we should have been afraid of the guy in the boat. And we are no different today than the way they were then. Jesus turns around and he repeatedly gives us another chance from drowning. He's prevented things in my life that saved my life, and yet I still turn around, give him full credit for it, and I get scared again. It's okay, the disciples did too, and they were there next to him. As many times as the Bible says, don't fear, we've been doing it since the beginning. God already knows you're going to get scared in this world. But Jesus is going to continually try to explain to you, you're not in any danger. I love you. And if we go back to our original verses in Matthew 10, Jesus said, do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. I really like this. I think a faith-filled interpretation of this would be to not fear anything that can kill your body. But Jesus goes on to say, rather fear him who can destroy both the soul and body in hell. Who would that be? The only one that can do that, the only one that can send you to hell is God. I love that Jesus points to a truth here in this, and I think it's a truth that all of us kind of know. He says, don't fear the one that can kill the body. The truth comes after that. You see, every one of us kind of knows that we're more than what the eye sees. I'm more than just a body up here. I have a soul. I feed my body, I have to feed my soul. That's what we do here on Wednesdays and on Sundays, correct? If you're with me, go ahead and shake your head yes. That's a good job to nobody. You have no idea what to do. No, thank you. Yeah, I like it. Both of them? Yeah, you did a good job. Your head just kind of, yeah, I'm listening, Troy. He goes on to say this in Matthew 29. Are not two sparrows sold for a penny? A penny is a day's wage. I go to work, I come home with a penny. It's not a penny like you're thinking of today. It literally means a day's wage. And not one of them will fall to the ground apart from your Father, but even the hairs on your head are all numbered. Fear not, therefore, you are of more value than many sparrows. I'm getting really close to wrapping this up for today, but I want you guys to see what Jesus is saying. This is going to be a multi-week message on fear. But the first lesson about fear is that you have a really, really powerful God, capable of sending you to hell and destroying your body and soul, capable of forcing the winds and the sea to obey him. But the second part of that is Jesus is telling us here, I'm a very personal God. Now, one of your hairs could fall out without me knowing. I've numbered them. I know how many you have. For those of you laughing right now, I already know you're looking at my bald head thinking about it. He knows those too.
Okay, when you said bald or bull-headed like Peter,
You heard bald-headed earlier? Yep, okay. All right.
Hey, the beard makes
So Jesus is saying that he is a personal God. He takes a look at you and says, I know you. I see you. I hear you. And I love you. And you are valuable to me. How valuable? Enough that he paid a price for you on the cross. He loved you enough to give up his own life. He's valuable enough that he decided that, you know what, I'm going to take the shame and the agony so that you can have an easy pass to life instead of death. He did all that on the chance that you would believe he did it. Because that choice is yours. You don't have to make that choice. But he did all that just for the chance that you would do it. Does everybody have a brother or sister in this room? Yay or nay? Rachel, just go ahead and put your hand up anyway. Act like it. Would you willingly take a beating on the chance that somebody else would be grateful, that your brother would be grateful for it? Not take it for them, but just a chance that they'd be thankful, that they tell you thank you. No one. Man, you guys, don't you lie to me. No, you would not.
Wait, what happens if I don't take it?
If what?
What if I don't take the beating?
Aiden, you have siblings.
I fought.
Speaking of Aiden, you never made Aiden stand up.
I got a couple things here in a minute.
Whoa.
All right. So I'm going to end this because this is a multiple week thing, and I was trying to think earlier today, where do I end it at? Y'all, I got like 6 more pages written today. I know, this is going to be one of those things that goes on like the Faith series. You're welcome.
Honestly, I like it.
So listen, I'm ending today with a request. Can we take our eyes off of the negativity, off of the negative side of people? Can we take our eyes off of our phones? And what I mean by that is the headlines and social media and stuff like that. Can we take our eyes off of that and stop focusing on that? And just so you know, I'm not saying to grab a Bible and lock yourself in a basement and act like you live under a rock. Rather, can we take our eyes off of that and reshift our focus, because we are a resurrected people. We belong to a kingdom, and that kingdom cannot be shaken by anything here on earth. That's where we belong. If you've accepted Jesus, you are no longer a citizen of earth. You're just visiting here. But it's time that we shift our focus just for a little bit. Just while you're in the middle of that fear even. It's time you shift your focus back to Jesus, the perfecter of our faith. The one who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sits at the right hand of the Father, where he still sits today. Amen? So then when you guys leave tonight, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened. Do not be dismayed. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go.